Devil May Cry 5 is absolutely awesome. I would certainly say it is better than the fourth game. The first major thing I have to say about it is that it is actually finished and has an incredible amount of nuance and depth, both carried over from older titles and drowning in new mechanics that add tons of variety. Hands down, this is the best Devil May Cry game next to Devil May Cry 3, though there were certain things I think I did like better in 3. Well, regardless, let's get into it. First off, and I know I usually don't draw attention to this stuff, but the graphics of this game are gorgeous. There are points where you can take a screenshot from the game, and it almost looks like it could be live action. It is so surreal to go from Devil May Cry 4 and its pseudo Final Fantasy CG visual style to something like this, but it still manages to capture the tone really well and feels like a Devil May Cry game regardless. The story itself was pretty darn good. It was off the wall and to an extent very unpredictable for a good chunk of it, which made the plot really enjoyable. They addressed, honestly, some of my biggest problems with 4, which was how Nero was characterized. They definitely did a good job differentiating both Dante and Nero from each other, in visuals, gameplay, and personality. Out of all the characters, I think Nero is the most relatable dude, and Johnny Young Bosch absolutely nailed the voice work. With all this combined, Nero is probably my second favorite character now. Dante is great too. He still has his off-the-wall goofy personality, but they also weren't afraid to show his more serious side in this game, which makes sense with the stakes, but I'll leave it there. V is a whole other character, but to put it bluntly, a huge part of his character is tied directly into the plot itself, so I'll let you play the game and figure it out for yourself. I still, unfortunately, feel 3 has the better story, which I'm down to debate that in the comments section if anyone wants, but the main reason I say this is because the story has a lot going on, arguably too much at times. Now a lot of this is due to the mystery element of the plot, but as a result it can be a little harder than usual to pick up on how this whole event started, but I'm sure the plot will hold up a little better on repeat playthroughs when you see where it's going. I said in the previous video that in 3, part of what made it cool for me was how no characters felt pointless. Everything had a reason to be there and helped develop the tone. I can't say that exactly for this game, as Lady and Trish are just kinda there. Lady bugs me because she was one of my favorite characters in 3, but she doesn't really do anything. Now, is this their game? No, but once again, I think it does feel like there are some characters that could be utilized better. Now, an issue that's not entirely related, but I want to talk about it anyway, is the trailers. So after the first trailer, I kind of dipped out of them for a bit because I had a feeling a lot of them would spoil the game itself. And having completed the game, I went back and looked at some of them, and sure enough, there were some elements that were certainly teased a little too much within the trailers, and I get that this is just the nature of trailers a lot of the time, but it does annoy me how so many trailers feel the need to just kind of throw in major plot elements, especially that last trailer that they had, so that's a big pet peeve I have, not relating to the game itself. I just felt I'd share that. Games, movies, stop it. Now on to the gameplay. In my previous video, I didn't actually end up talking about the gameplay much, ironically, since I had to cover every single game, but this is probably the best game to talk about it. So a big thing with this series is its sense of style. It features all kinds of combos, tricks, and weapons, and really encourages changing things up and beating up enemies in the most stylish way possible. For those who are fans of the previous games, I think you'll be glad to hear this plays pretty much the same. Pause combos and the weird dodge system you'd expect are here and accounted for. In general, this series has hit a certain stride with 3 in terms of gameplay and structure, and this game takes that and ups everything by like 1,000. Now in this game you have 3 playable characters. Obviously there's Dante, but there's also the returning Nero from Devil May Cry 4, and this mysterious new character named V. I'll start with Nero. Nero used to be pretty fun in 4, but he didn't really give you a lot to play with, and as satisfying as his grabs were, the game telegraphed it pretty hard for the most part, and this was incredibly abusable on most enemies as well. Now for reasons, Nero now has a new robot arm, which has so much variety it's insane. Basically, you can swap out arms in between missions, and each arm has specific actions they can do, as well as perform super attack, and you can still pull in enemies just like before. If you get the DLC, or have the deluxe edition like me, you get to use the Mega Buster, which looks ridiculous in cutscenes. I mean, look at that thing. But in gameplay, it's so fun. They added all these little animations to Nero to emulate classic Mega Man, and it's both awesome and hilarious. I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind a 3D Mega Man game if it played like this. As for Dante, if you have played Devil May Cry 3 and 4 in particular, he plays almost exactly like before, though you get some really cool weapons and abilities later, which I won't spoil, but they change things up immensely for him. Not quite on the level of Nero, but he still has a lot going for him. V, I'll be honest, he's my least favorite of the three, but for what he is, he's pretty cool. Compared to Dante and Nero, he plays very different, using summoned creatures to do the damage for him, and hilariously, you can read a book to charge up your DT while the animal friends do all the work.
You're a slacker.
Oh yeah, Devil Trigger. I guess I skimmed over talking about that in the previous reviews. For each character, except Nero, who doesn't have this in this game, he's a good boy, they tap into their inner emo and enter a super form. Dante's basically powers up his attacks, while V summons in a Leviathan from the heavens above. This thing unleashes a ton of damage, so I find the safest thing to do with V is to camp out where it's safe, read My Immortal, and once that meter's full, activate your super form. Also, recently added in a patch is the Bloody Palace mode from previous games. In this mode, you fight your way down multiple floors trying to take as little damage as possible, and killing enemies as quick as you can before the timer runs out. I played it a little, and it's pretty challenging, so go in knowing it'll be pretty hard. I had so much fun with this game, and one of my favorite additions to it is how the music dynamically changes around your style ranking. It feels so good to be in the middle of a combo, have a monster smack you in the face with a fireball, and then rebound to get an SSS rank. This game feels so darn good to master, and I can't even quantify it. It's just fun. On the topic of the music is pretty freaking great. I've honestly been listening to Devil Trigger ever since the first trailer dropped, and getting to hear the rest of the soundtrack is pretty sweet. Also, if you have the DLC, you get to play levels with the battle music from the older Devil May Cry games, which is just really cool. Also, I didn't know where to fit this in, so I'll just mention that there's a feature where you can watch the pre-visualization footage for cutscenes, and it's absolutely hilarious. I love this one guy who just flaps his arms to represent Griffin, and it's just the best. So with all that said, I absolutely recommend it. Easily my favorite game of the year so far, and yes, I'm counting Kingdom Hearts 3. 2019 is looking to be a pretty decent year as far as games go, and looking forward to hopefully more pleasant surprises like this. Regardless, I'll see you guys later, and remember to always pull my Devil Trigger. Okay, that sounds a little... Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you liked it, feel free to comment down below, like the video, subscribe, all of that stuff. If you want to show some support, you can check out my Patreon or go to the PayPal link in the description to donate. Anything you donate will be appreciated. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you later.